Where did that confidence come from, you, John, and the rest of the group and the troupe, to be able to really believe you could pull it off, to pitch that? I mean, that's a lot
Well,
of
you
confidence.
just get a feeling. Yeah, you just get a feeling. You think the other guys are pretty good, and you think, I think we could do something interesting, and then you get a little bit excited about it. It's really is. It's as simple as that.
Okay.
You just get excited, and you see, in those days, the BBC was acting out of confidence, and if you're dealing with an organization that acts out of confidence, then you can find out what the decision-making process is, and you can get a decision. If the organization is running out of fear, you can't really find out who's taking the decision. And you find it's all about committees who get together and make sure that nobody's out of step, because if you're out of step, you could be proved wrong. Whereas if everyone in the committee agrees with you, you're kind of safe because you all made the mistake together. So you get groupthink. You just get a group of people who think they know what they're talking about when they have honestly no idea at all. And they seem to think, I often get on commercials, it's happened on the Specsavers commercial I did, that when you first meet you, they all fawn all over you and say how wonderful you are. But when it finally gets down to decisions about the editing, they know better than you do.
Right, right. And does that type of groupthink or fear-based decision-making kill any creativity or any gems?
Yeah. Yeah, because what they want to do is to repeat something. They want to know what they're getting, so they make a film that's a sequel or a prequel. Or if they can't do that, then they buy a well-known book or comic or something like that, and they just follow that. You see, the thing is, when you have people operating out of confidence, that they can trust their gut and not do everything on sort of ticking boxes. And we were lucky because in the 60s and 70s, when I was working in television, we had people there like Bill Cotton, who were just wonderful. Very wise, very smart. They knew show business. They'd been in it all their lives. And that was a delight. And you see, in those days, the BBC had confidence because they had the license fee, and that meant they were not pushed around by market forces. You won't believe this, Brian. When we were doing Monty Python, we didn't know what the viewing figures were.
Because it didn't matter.
People would just sort of shake their head and say, no, we didn't know. We were interested in a thing called the AI, which is the appreciation index, which is what the number of people who thought it was especially good. That was what we were after. We never knew how many people watched us. But then what happened is a man called John Burt took the BBC over. And Burt, I think, was a person who did everything with his left hemisphere, and was never judged anything on the basis of his feeling. It was all done with statistics. And they began to get scared that if they didn't pull in the audiences that ITV did, they might get their license fee taken away. So once they took that decision, they were under exactly the same commercial pressures that the commercial companies were. So all the advantages of the license fee were thrown away by that one completely half-witted decision.
And has it been making fear-based decisions since?
Yes, I think the main fear they have at the BBC is losing their job, which is why there's nobody there with any courage.
Right.
See what I mean? They're all frightened and they all want to work in committees, and you can't get a decision out of them. And they're just hopeless. My agent said to me recently, he's a very bright 40-year-old, he said he'd rather negotiate with anyone rather than the BBC. They're just a bunch of people clinging together, trying to hang on to their jobs. And there's none of that excitement or let's try this, let's this. And the word quality, we used to talk about quality programs. And I talked to somebody who worked for Murdoch. And he said, you never heard the phrase. It was only viewing figures. It was never about the quality, intrinsic quality of the program. It doesn't exist because you can't measure it. But you can measure the number of people watching it. So that's when Murdoch started taking over in television and dragging us down market in various ways.
Has that same attitude carried over into the way we make movies in Britain and even in Hollywood, where it's just, again, trying to minimize risk, or are there people out there still doing bold things?
Well, the indies do. A lot of the independents are making very good films, very, very good films. And that's great, but it's a big struggle. I mean, just before I left England to come down here to the West Indies to get some sun and rest, I did a movie in Yorkshire. And it was shot in about 3 weeks, and everyone seemed to be from the Yorkshire area except for the cast, and there was a sense of community about it, which was absolutely lovely, and that can't be replaced. That feeling everybody was from the same part of England. I love that, almost everyone except for the director and one cameraman. And when I did the Bond movies, I only ever did 2, incidentally. I did 4 days on Bond movies over 4 years, so it never really pulled my life off balance. But when I was doing the Bond movies, it was lovely. Down there at the Pinewood Studios, there were people whose grandfathers had worked on Dr. No. And the atmosphere was great. But now, of course, they're made in Prague because it's cheaper. So everything is about money, and everything is about people who are primarily interested in money and who are very much more frightened of losing it than sort of making it by doing something a bit special.
And that comes out on the screen, right? You might not know it consciously, but subconsciously you know it's just not the same as if those other factors were in place.
That's right. There's a lot of stuff that goes on at our unconscious levels that we really don't know about. And I think I get onto my own private hobby horse. There's a lot of conventions of filming that everyone accepts because they're all in the books about cinematography. And I think they're wrong because I think they're sending the wrong unconscious messages to audiences. But that's a huge topic.